They did what with the podcast? That's right. It's Your Take is Excrement, season
4.
4?
4. And that's
4.
right. We're keeping the name. Thank you for everyone who rallied to save Your Take is Excrement. You did it. You done good.
Yeah.
Give yourself a pat on the back.
We are back for season 4. I am still May Leets.
I'm still Neo.
And we are still talking about movies. But today, you got to tell the people at home what the theme of this season is.
Yeah.
People have been excited to know, even though I think I already said something.
We're gonna do a little bit of shop talk about the podcast. So if you don't like us talking about the current state of the podcast, go and skippity-doo right on a bit further, where we presumably will be talking about a movie.
Oh, right.
Presumably, if I get the hankering to. So, we're changing the mission statement on the podcast just a touch. So, this season's gonna be the Sigma male season. We're gonna be mostly looking at movies that are like incel-y, Sigma-y movies, and we're gonna be specifically looking at them through the lens of like what about these movies that are Sigma male or not, or like incel-y or not, and what attracts incels to these movies. And if you've been religiously watching us, you've probably noticed this changing of the tides as we've increasingly talked about this kind of stuff. But we saw this video, or I saw a video, and then because I know May loves to be tortured, I showed it to her.
I do love to be tortured, by the way.
I'm not going to name the YouTuber because I don't want to do that, but he just had like objectively the worst takes on he was literally like talking about Sigma male movies, but then just having like the worst possible fucking takes.
Well, so his problem was that he had half of a take.
Yeah.
And his half was that Sigma male movies are effective because people actually connect with them.
Yeah.
And so when people make fun of them and people make fun of people for liking them, like, sure, some of that is valuable, but also understand that those people actually deeply connect with those movies.
Right.
So that is only half of an argument. The follow-up argument is
why?
Why, and is that justified? And what is the actual like long-term effect? What are these movies meant to actually do? Are they being understood by the people that watch them? Mm-hmm. These are valid questions that people tend not to ask because they're trying to ask why people connect with something.
Right. Yeah. So we're going to be shifting, at least for a while. We're going to be shifting the focus towards that because I have determined that I will declare jihad against
the Sigma male.
Against the Sigma male, and I will not stop until I have either destroyed their ideology or I am in the grave.
And so with that, today's episode is going to be on American Psycho.
Well, one more thing.
Yeah.
We have a subreddit now. One of our patrons made it. It's r/Your Take is Excrement. Go check it out. Yeah.
I just went on there a little while ago, and if you ignore all the pornography on my account, you'll find that I left a little post there that said, "Hey, it's May. Leave AMA if anybody." So if you ever have questions for me, you can go over to the subreddit and ask them there, and don't click on my account and see all the pornography.
Well, now people are going to do it.
I know.
You just opened that door.
I'm sorry.
Anyway, all right. So that wasn't too long. About 4 minutes of shop top. Anyway,
shop top.
Why do I keep saying that?
Because chop top, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2.
Because my brain is fried.
Like an egg.
Like an egg. That's just any moment in time. If you like, if the movie of life were to jump cut to my brain, it's just like an egg sizzling.
I'm that image of that wolf that's like, no thoughts, head empty, only want to eat trash. That's me. Anyway,
all right.
So today's episode is going to be on American Psycho, the film directed by Mary Harron, starring Christian Bale and everyone else on the planet, including Dr. Michael Morbius, noted vampire killer Jared Leto himself, vampire murderer. I'm sorry, Dr. Michael Morbius. He does play a role in the film. I have an idea. I think from now on, because for some reason Jared Leto does appear in quite a few Sigma male movies like Fight Club and shit.
Yeah.
Whenever Jared Leto appears in a movie that we watched from for the future,
He's gonna morb.
we need to just be like, also this film is spotlighted for having an appearance by Dr. Michael Morbius. That's right. Dr. Michael Morbius, everybody.
Also, Sony, if you're listening,
Please keep releasing the flop into theaters, thinking we'll watch it instead of realizing that we're making fun of it.
We were all
because
just
it didn't make money.
joking the last time. If you release it, if you do another theatrical release, I promise we will all go watch it. Billions of dollars on the line.
Listen, I paid good fucking money to go see Dr.
We
Michael
did see it in
Morbius.
theaters.
I paid good money to see that in theaters, and you know what? It was absolutely worth every single one of the 3 alcoholic beverages I needed to get through it.
Yeah. Well,
now,
I don't know why, but I was thinking Matthew McConaughey was in this movie, but then I realized I transplanted.
you were thinking about the Wolf of Wall
I
Street?
transplanted him from Wolf of Wall Street into American Psycho.
Well, I
'Cause it
mean,
fits,
it
right?
does fit. It does. Well, and I mean, it's kind of
can you imagine the scene with Patrick Bateman where he's sitting there, he's just.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, it feels like it mixes in. But the one thing I would say is that McConaughey is very much trying to embrace people, bring people into the fold, whereas Patrick Bateman feels completely like he doesn't belong to anywhere. Because he's the son of the company and all that shit.
Do you think if Matthew McConaughey was in American Psycho, Patrick Bateman would just be a totally normal, like well-adjusted adult? Like just someone be like, hey man, hey, all right, so here's what you gotta do, man. Like let's have lunch and just keep those marks coming.
Yeah. How many times you jerk off a day?
How many times? Rookie
numbers. You got to get those numbers up.
You think if Patrick Bateman jerked off more, he wouldn't have killed women?
I don't know. That's a good question, because I don't know. We never really got into his masturbation habits.
Well, because like a lot of weird alt-right like cult, like Nazi cults, one of their like rules is you can't masturbate. You can't even have sex.
Yeah,
because power comes from sperm? ?
Well, that tracks.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Counterpoint. You know, I bet Alexander the Great like was
mega sperm.
Had mega sperm and was dumping it into his into
Just like
his
Genghis
lover.
Khan.
Just like Genghis Khan. Like it's when you really look at like the great leaders of history, it doesn't fly because they were all like fucking sex crazed maniacs.
Okay, so now on the podcast about American Psycho, we're talking about the spreading of powerful Ayn Randian sperm. So we're gonna return to talking about the film, but first. Don't we have sponsors?
Oh yes. On the topic of super sperm, we like to thank our sponsors, Machine Age Productions and the RPG #iHunt and Ambient Dream Studios. Thank you both for sponsoring the show. More about them in the ad break halfway through. And onto the plot of American Psycho. For the 2 people in the audience who haven't seen it.
Well, before we do that, my experience with American Psycho originates long ago, long before the memes, even. Because this movie was a movie that came out and kind of, like, was a dud to anybody who didn't give a shit.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I had a couple of friends who really, really liked it. Just like I had a couple of friends that really, really liked Donnie Darko. And a couple of friends who really, really liked Fight Club. But, like, all of these movies to the greater public felt more like cult movies before the internet got a hold of them. And then we realized just how many people actually liked those movies.
Also, quick side note, please don't make me do Donnie Darko.
Oh, we're doing it.
No, fuck.
What, you don't like it?
No. Well, we'll see if someone puts a gun to my head and makes me do an episode on it.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry for sidelining that.
No, it's good. But so when I was young, I rented this movie from Blockbuster. You know what I mean? On a VHS tape and watched it. And So that was my experience of watching the film for the first time. And then when memes came about later on, it was more funny to me because it was like, oh yeah, that fucking movie where where fucking Christian Bale is the murderer guy. And then it turned into like American Psycho is a very important thing. And then it turned into like, that's actually a really foundational film for many people.
Right.
And that in and of itself kind of baffled me because it was a foundational film for me as well, but almost for entirely different reasons that it seems to have been a foundational film for the majority of the population.
Right. To full disclosure, I consumed most of the film through memes before I ever actually saw the movie.
Yeah, I was pretty much the one that was like, yo, you gotta probably actually watch this film. And well, the weird thing is, like, I go back and forth on it, and I have gone back and forth on it a bunch of times. I've frequently made the argument that we need to probably let this movie go. And I don't disagree. I feel the same about the book. I feel like while these are things that, like, have relevance, I suppose, they also, like, a lot of them exhibit ideas that are questionable enough to where they test your media literacy.
Right. Well, they're also ideas that didn't age as gracefully as they could have, and not because the movie is like flawed in that way or the book is flawed, but just because they didn't age well into the year of our Lord 2022.
Yeah, the way I'll say it is, I think Mary Herron's directing style aged very well. I think that is the highlight of the movie, and that's probably the thing that continues. But Patrick Bateman as a character, as a stand-in for like the wealthy, or a young dude, who's like got money. I don't know if it's 1-to-1 anymore. I think it's a little dated now.
Yeah,
I think that mentality is a bit dated.
I'll also say, as much as I hate to say this, Christian Bale is excellent.
He's excellent, but he's almost too hot. He's like a guy who can get whatever he wants, and yet he wants to kill women, right?
Yeah.
But he doesn't actually want to kill women. He just wants to kill his secretary.
Yeah.
And he doesn't actually want to kill his secretary. He just hates her. But he doesn't actually hate her. He just wants to fuck her, but she's too close to him, and he's worried about letting his guard down, so he can't talk to her. So he's kind of the ultimate incel, in that he has a girl in mind that he likes, but he also has a woman he has to maintain for image, and then he has a bunch of sexual relationships that he has to maintain, and his psychopathy is something that's internalized because he can't seem to figure out how to get what he wants.
Right.
And his response, and often the cis male response to not getting what you want, is throwing a temper tantrum that leads to a lot of violent crime.
Right.
And so, like, white dude who's rich doesn't get one thing that he wants, and the whole thing falls apart. I mean, like, listen, maybe this is a hot take, but I think at the end when they're looking through the journal, and we'll talk about this, but they're looking through a journal that Patrick Bateman wrote in, and he's got 1 billion pieces of art drawing his secretary in different violent situations, and she's sitting looking at it, going, "Oh my God, I had no idea that Patrick wants to kill me."
Right.
And like, people ask this question all the time where it's like, is this all in Patrick's mind? And it's not whether or not it's all in Patrick's mind, because it doesn't really matter. It's a haze of irresponsibility.
Right.
Like, if he did it or if he didn't do it, it doesn't make much of a difference.
Right.
The confession means nothing.
Right.
But objectively, it does affect everyone around,
because
they just all have to pretend it's not happening.
Right. Well, also, society doesn't give a shit what he's doing, whether he is doing this or not. And I think that's one of the points of the movie.
Right.
Is it is absolutely irrelevant to every single character in that movie if Patrick Bateman violently raped and murdered women or not. They don't fucking care.
This movie is basically the if the Truman Show is the left hand, this is the right hand. You know what I
Right.
mean? It's the same level of I feel like my life is inauthentic, therefore I'm gonna begin bursting out.
Uh-huh.
And so, like in the Truman Show, he's like, my life feels authentic. I'm gonna try to figure out how to escape.
Right.
And in this, he's like, my life is a nightmare. I'm gonna figure out how to
How to
push,
change it.
Well, I'm going to push the boundaries on. Well, yeah. Two, he wants to be punished.
Yes.
He desires to be punished, but he is frustrated that he consistently is not being punished.
Right.
And he doesn't quite understand it. And like that's why when he calls his lawyer and has a meltdown, he's not having a meltdown because he feels bad about killing people. He's not having a meltdown because he's like gonna get caught or something like that. He's having a meltdown because he wants to take responsibility,
Yeah.
but he feels like he can't.
Well, and he's almost happy about it. Like it is a weight off of his shoulders. And
The
he is,
possibility of destroying his inauthentic life.
right.
And that's the thing he wants the whole time. And so it's almost the opposite reaction, right? Instead of trying to escape your life, he's trying to destroy it.
Right.
And like also everything that points out his insecurity within that inauthentic system makes him react violently as well. The reason he kills Dr. Michael Morbius, the vampire murderer, is because he has a business card that is slightly better.
Yeah.
Like literally, I know that people
he also
mention
didn't
that it's
give
like,
it-
oh yeah, he gets a reservation at Dorsia whenever he wants and all this other shit. But like the real thing is that he's just better than him.
Yeah.
And he's better at fitting in than him because it's all inauthentic and they're all lying to each other. They're
Right.
all a bunch of fucking assholes. But and they all know that. They all know each one is cheating on each other's with their wives and with their husbands and with fucking everybody. They all know it. None of them care. They just dislike it when one of them is better at fitting in than the other ones.
Right.
So what is the plot of American Psycho, I guess?
So the plot of American Psycho is Patrick Bateman is the son of the owner of this like really big company. He's in mergers.
On Wall Street.
He's in mergers and acquisitions.
Murders and executions, mostly.
Yes, and he hates his life. He hates it there. He talks about how he doesn't feel anything. How he's a simulacrum of a person, and he meticulously maintains this simulacrum. And the only time he feels is when he is violent towards people. So he lures people into apartments and murders them, or he will lure prostitutes and violently rape them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the movie, his habits escalate to the point where the law is closing in on him. He calls his lawyer, confesses to everything, shows up to work the next day, and his lawyer's like, "Oh, that voicemail, fucking hilarious." And
Yeah, and
he
he's like, "That didn't
realizes
happen."
that he cannot do nothing he does
Can get him responsibility.
can get him
Can get him accountability.
And real quick before we move on, because I'll forget to ask this, I didn't catch why he did it in the movie, and maybe they talk about it in the books. Why does he go by like 3 different names? Why does he tell people that he's someone else?
Oh, to shirk responsibility, but also because like he knows that he is fairly indefinable and he basically just he agrees with whatever somebody says to him, right? So he believes that to maintain appearances, he needs to keep his body in perfect orderly condition, maintain an emotionless existence, and always respond pleasantly and with the correct answer to when anybody ever says anything to him. He doesn't really initiate conversation.
Right.
In the whole film, he doesn't initiate conversation. He doesn't desire conversation. But whenever conversation is initiated to him, he will find an agreeable groove no matter who it is that he's talking to.
Right.
So
Or
when they call him a different name, he just agrees that he's that person.
yeah. Well, also he gets really upset whenever someone talks to him and they don't follow the conventions of how he thinks conversation should go.
Yeah.
And that he, I don't know, it feels like there's some similarities between him and Dennis Reynolds from It's Always Sunny.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Where like when things don't go Dennis's way, he just like roids out, and it's almost the same in American Psycho. But
Yeah.
I think Dennis Reynolds is very inspired by Patrick Bateman.
Yeah. Well, and so the big question of the podcast, Your Take is Excrement, that we're doing on the Sigma Male season, the big question is, like, why exactly do people connect with it? And then the follow-up questions. So first thing is, like, why is this the thing that guys see? And I think that it's because most guys growing up feel like they need to maintain an appearance and a pleasantness so that they can interact with society and fit in, but they don't know how to escape that monotony without reacting violently.
Right.
And they don't really know how to communicate their actual feelings with, like, women or men, because there is, like, weird bisexual energy in this movie as well. And he just doesn't know how to communicate with anybody,
Right.
emotionally. He only knows how to maintain the appearance. And so I feel like that's the thing about America. Growing up as a man in America, you are taught to maintain your appearance, shut down your emotions, and, like, stick to your script. And if you deviate from your script, then it looks like psychopathy.
Right.
And so the true thing, the irony of American Psycho, is the moment where he becomes, quote unquote, like an American Psycho, is at the end when he realizes that he will always shirk responsibility for that. And, like, he just starts laughing. And it's like, that's the moment of insanity.
Right.
The moment when you can do whatever you want.
Right.
And it's a freeing moment, because for him, his arc is realizing that he truly can just get away with whatever he wants, and that while he has to maintain this appearance, his reward is also his curse.
Right.
And so that's the thing that a lot of people, I think, feel and connect with. They feel like they despise socialization, but they also feel like it should be, like, given to them, and they shouldn't have to work for it, and they should not be held accountable for the things that they do in social environments.
Right.
And so they want to have their cake and eat it too, on the social thing.
Right.
And so, like, I think that's the thing the movie is kind of, like, pointing out that a young lad could connect with.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I feel like, going off of something you said earlier, you know, there's like the two you know, like, ways of dealing with realizing that your reality is artificial and not, like, fulfilling, where it's like,
Yeah, it's fight or flight. You either leave or you attack it.
right. Well, and it's like, you know, attacking reality or society isn't gonna, like, fundamentally change anything, like, by yourself, you know, like, Patrick Bateman's one-man crusade against prostitutes isn't going to change anything.
Right.
And, you know, and so it's like what the way as a young man to get out of that is make your own reality. Like, is like change your surroundings. Like, it's like, you know, Patrick Bateman, he never leaves the place that tortures him. He, like, you know, and so, like, the scene where he kills the homeless dude is really interesting, because I think, like, to some degree he's genuinely trying to understand in his own way, like, how someone could live a life different than his, because everyone he knows is living his life, and there's this element of curiosity where he's interrogating the homeless dude, where he's like, "Why don't you get a job? I can't comprehend not having a job."
Right.
You know, It's like why
Oh,
don't
and he's just like, I guess I just can't connect with you.
yeah, and then he kills him.
Right.
But it's like, oh, you feel out of place in society, you feel no one's socializing with you, and there's no consequences to your actions. Fucking leave.
But he doesn't make a genuine effort to like understand other people.
Right.
He tries to get to see if he himself fits himself into a position.
Right,
So
well-
he's asking himself, does Patrick Bateman take care of the homeless? Well, Patrick Bateman has opinions on the homeless, but Patrick Bateman ultimately kind of looks down on the homeless.
Right.
So, yeah, he chooses in that moment, I don't connect with you,
Well-
therefore I'm going to continue to look down on you.
In one of the opening scenes, he's like, why are we concerned about like what is it like the genocide in Bangladesh when we should be concerned
Sri Lanka
when we should be concerned with the homelessness in America and solving housing the homeless people and he rambles off
Providing
this list.
food and maintaining traditional moral values.
Yeah, and then he leaves and murders a homeless dude because he's no longer performing in front of his friends.
Right, exactly. So his beliefs are performative, and when it comes to him genuinely trying to understand the world, he reacts violently because he can.
Right. Well, I had a friend who, and I don't know, I have complicated views on this dude, but he just can't. He's like kind of like a weird family situation, and like he said something really spicy, and we called him out on it. He said, "Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. I slipped. I need to get back into the hanging out with y'all mode." And we're like, "What are you talking about?" And he's like, "Oh, I just have different versions of me for whenever I'm with my parents,
Code
or with
switching.
people."
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, well, what's the real you? And he was like, "What do you mean?" And it's like, I don't know.
Which one is you?
Yeah,
Well, and a lot of
it's-
people genuinely don't ask themselves that question
Right.
ever.
Yeah, and so it's like, it's like I don't want you to be performative with me. It's like if
Yeah.
anyway, and so it's like, and I feel like a lot of people are like that, where it's like when they're on, like a lot of incels are like that, where like because like a certain percentage of them have jobs and like interact with society, and then go back to 4chan and scream about femoids.
Well, and
shit.
I know this for a fact because, like, I had somebody who I worked with for a really long time who was around me, very openly trans positive, right?
Mhm.
Like, he introduced me to his mom and was like, this is, my friend May. She's wonderful. She's beautiful, all this stuff. And then whenever I'd go home and see him on Facebook, he'd be disgusting and
Yeah.
saying the most awful things about trans people and like literally making fun of trans people for being disgusting and ugly. And then the next day, go back into work and he's doing the exact same thing to me again. And it's just like, that's fucking two-faced.
Yeah.
Like, you should be consistent in your narrative of what you think and what you feel.
Right.
And like, if you don't, then you don't come across like you feel anything.
Yeah.
And so from then on, anytime he ever said anything remotely positive to me, I didn't trust it.
No.
And I never will.
Yeah.
And I carry that with me with a lot of people where now, I intentionally look for elements of people kind of blending their personality in a chameleon-like way into whatever their environment is, because I'm realizing that is a tactic, usually by predators.
Right. Well, and also by people who are terrified of any environment.
Right.
And so I think like there's it's and I think this begets the question where it's like how do you interact with these people who like deep down are incredibly apathetic but lean right and incel-y? How do you change their mind, and how do you pull them back from that while when they're talking to you they'll like disguise themselves as like someone and or like as someone you would like engage
Comfortably
with.
interact with. They're
Right.
pleasant.
And so it's like
They can pretend to be pleasant.
well, and it's almost like an absolute lack of ideology or but that lack of ideology just opens the way for like nihilism, and then that nihilism pushes them into hate.
Well, okay, so here's my hot take with all this. Sorry to Bother You, that movie, right? It's all about code switching, about white voice, about how black people, in order to gain accolades in a white society, must pretend in their code to be white people,
Right.
so that white people will, and not just white people, but an idealized version of white society. The thing is, white people also have to maintain this ideal of white society that is not real. And this has like been something that's been going on for years, and this is very literally the thing that is tearing the country apart. It's probably the reason why everybody is so fucking violent. It's just like this, we have to maintain this oppressive white majority concept that is aging poorly and is no longer standing on a foundation.
Right.
And so when you find yourself on a teetering ideology, the idea is like to push really, really hard. And that usually means being very, very violent, doing something violent to make a change of some kind. And so like, it's the fight or flight thing where, you know, people are jumping off that ship now, is my point. That particular ship is getting dangerous, and the people that are still on that ship are now committing serious violence. And it's all about maintaining an appearance of a society that doesn't exist.
Right.
And is oppressive to everybody. Is it ad time?
It is ad time.
Welcome to the zoo. Here's a pamphlet. Take a look at the map here. If you take a look at the map here, we've got all kinds of new exhibits. So the last time you were here, things have moved. Things could be very different than last time, and I know that you really, are excited to hear all about the new animals that we have in the zoo today.
Well, what's in this enclosure?
Oh, over here? Oh, this is #iHunt. It's an app you get on your phone, and you can hunt monsters in the gig economy. Doesn't that sound great? It's an RPG?
Yeah.
Like Dungeons and Dragons.
Drungans and Dragons.
Dungeons and Dragons. And I know you're asking, do we have any dragons? And no, we do not at this zoo, unfortunately.
No dragons
because dragons, unfortunately, are not real.
No dragons at the animal prison?
Nope, sorry. No, not real.
What about what about this enclosure?
Oh, over here? This is Ambient Dream Studios. This is kind of an Etsy store where they make kind of really abstract, kind of like psychedelic art that is really thought-provoking and pretty, very nice color palette. So you should check that out. You can just take a look in the enclosure there. Oh, there's one more enclosure that I need to show you. Okay, over here is my friend at CryptidPod on Twitter. We keep them in this enclosure because they're extremely dangerous. They're a furry artist that does primarily like cute shit mixed with gore, mixed with like Lisa Frank vibes. It's like hyper kinetic, hyper colorful, and they're really, really cool. So you should check them out as well. But don't get too close lest they eat your face or hurt you in some way, as they are a gremlin. And also, if you want to, on the way out, you can head over to the gift shop. You can pick up my book, Fluids, which has absolutely nothing to do with animals, thank God. And also, if you want to leave a donation to the zoo, it's patreon.com/excrement. And you can leave $1 in the poop jar.
In the poop jar.
Leave $1 in the poop jar.
All right. Well, back to the episode.
Back to American Psycho.
Every time we say that, there's this Fall Out Boy song. That's like American
Christ.
Psycho, and it plays in my head for a little bit.
Oh boy, don't I know it! Remember back when Fall Out Boy was good?
Yeah.
Do you?
Oh, I mean I liked Fall Out Boy when I was listening to their new stuff that came out.
Oh, I liked them when they were like emo kids in 2009.
Yeah, I liked whatever that album was where there was like the the Tibetan kid and the punk kid, and they're standing.
Oh, Save Rock and Roll?
Yeah, I think a lot of people hated that album.
Yeah.
But
Me, kind of.
Yeah, that was my first exposure to them, and I was like, ooh, cool music.
Yeah, I mean, you've seen Fall Out Boy live, right?
I did see Fall Out Boy live.
That's really fucked up.
Yeah.
Because I haven't seen them live.
Black Bear opened for them, and he sucked. And the Smith kid, Jaden Smith.
The Smiths?
No. So it was
Morrissey was there?
No, it was Jaden Smith, then Black Bear, then Fall Out Boy.
So Jaden Smith opened for Morrissey.
Sure. It was a weird pre-show.
Yeah,
it
sounds
opener.
like it. Wait, so you saw Jaden Smith? Well,
Yeah.
wow. How were his eyes real if his eyes aren't real or whatever? Tweet. Insert funny tweet.
Honestly, hot take. He was okay.
Yeah.
Like he wasn't too bad.
Okay. All right.
He was he
didn't hit anyone, did he?
No.
Oh,
He seemed like a
okay.
nice kid.
All right.
From the 30 minutes I watched him perform his weird music. Anyway,
strange tunes.
no, okay, American Psycho.
Which has absolutely nothing to do with Jaden Smith, but everything to do with Fall Out Boy, but nothing to do with Fall Out Boy, but everything
I think it has everything to do with Jaden Smith.
Okay. Jaden Smith is the American Psycho.
If no, honestly, do you not like?
Actually, the 1-to-1 comparison is probably rather intense.
Yeah, I saw. Anyway.
He's the son of the CEO of the company.
Yeah.
You know? Anyway.
So a question that comes up, talking about, so like with society, if society's a sinking ship and there are people who are trying to leave it to make something new, or people who will murder people to try to keep the ship afloat. Like, how do you convince people to fuck off and like leave? Like, how I think the question is like, how
LSD.
Well, no, because we just talked about fear and loathing in Las Vegas.
I know, we just talked about how LSD is not the solution.
Yeah.
Hinduism?
Well,
become a Hindu. That would help.
But you can't, it's like, how do you... so the question I'm trying to ask, veiled, is how do you de-radicalize 4chan incels,
Honey, if I knew how to de-radicalize 4chan incels, I would have made...
Well...
so many leaps and bounds in my life by this point. Like, you have to understand that the main question that's been driving the entirety of my internet career is, how do I de-radicalize these assholes?
Right.
Like, I've been asking myself that question for years, and I have never found myself succeeding.
Yeah. Well, and I think, that was both a specific question for you, and a general question to think about to the audience, where I know that when I was younger, when I was a younger little Neo, I had some weird bad takes, and the thing that stopped those weird bad shitty takes from becoming something I based my ideology around was whenever those slipped out, I had friends who would go hey, you said this thing, I don't know if you understand why that's a weird, shitty, stupid thing. But
that's fucked up.
Well, but it isn't even just hey, that's fucked up. But it was people who are gonna be like, I'm going to engage with this idea on good faith with you. And it was beyond hey, it's like don't ever fucking say that. There wasn't, but it was more like people would be hey, you said this, I'm going to engage on it. People did the Dan Olsen thing, right? Where instead of just saying, no, it's a bad take, fuck off, it was all right, so I'm going to
let me just play this out for
very
you.
thoroughly break down what your take means, and so you can see the ramifications of your take. And I would go, I don't like what that take spells out. Well, and they'd be like, yes, that's why you've discovered why this is a bad take. And then I would go and I would apologize to whoever was affected by the shitty thing I said.
Well, and the reality for a lot of people that that are on the spectrum and shit like that, of any kind, is that we have a tendency to do what we're told. Mm-hmm. And so whenever somebody tells me that something is a specific way, I will believe them. Mm-hmm. And that element of that ends up leading people towards radicalization.
Right.
If you don't know the rub, and then somebody's like, hi, I can tell you the rub, but I'm going to tell you the rub in a way that I want you to mobilize in a specific way against minorities based on this like false information. They tell you that rub, you carry that with you for the rest of your life. And then like until you voice it, nobody really tells you that it's wrong.
Right. Well, and the problem lies in that a lot of times everyone it's like everyone can acknowledge like an issue, right? So it's like, but everyone will take just drastically different solutions, right? So it's the
Right.
sinking ship thing where it's like, hey, the ship's sinking. It's like, yeah, let's jump off the ship and swim to the shore. No, fuck you. I'm gonna murder you and use your body to fill the hole. It's like, oh, what?
Right.
Huh? What are you talking about? The shore's right there. We can swim there. We have life jackets. No, murder.
Right.
Like it's like yes, the American empire is collapsing. Like we've had 3 major recessions in our lifetime. Like everything, the world is choking itself to death. Everything's going to shit. Like
everybody hates the rich.
Everybody hates the rich. It's like everything is going catastrophically wrong. Like, and your solution is to write a bunch of write a bunch of rules about trans athletes. The planet's on fucking fire.
Yeah, exactly. Well, like literally everything imaginable that sucks is going on, and apparently the issue is that trans people having hormones is bad.
And Ohio's like, what if we made penis inspection day a real thing? It's like, the fuck? The fuck are you doing?
What? Yeah, and it's just like, you can do that?
We can't let people groom our kids. So athletes have to have their penises inspected.
Yeah, and it's just like,
huh?
Yeah. Well, and we've completely gotten off, but the point...
No, I don't think we have.
The point is there's a lot of like stupid shit going on, but it's all about these like minor, we got to return to traditional moral values or else we're never going to have any legs to stand on. And it's like, bitch, we've never had legs to stand on. And murdering people to like maintain that or to rebel against it is only continuing to do exactly the thing. If you're frustrated that your role in society is that you're a harm doer, and so in retaliation against the harm that you do, you decide to go out and do harm, then like what has successfully happened? And I think that largely the movie is concerned with trying to communicate to us that, mostly men in power get away with it.
Right. Well, also,
generally, men in power get away with it.
And also, it's like, think if Patrick Bateman had the internet, right? Think if Patrick Bateman had access to 4chan. Instead of...
See, this is what I mean about the movie aging weird, because, like, the serial killer 80s comparison makes sense, but nowadays we're talking about somebody who's more of a spree shooter, or someone who, like, is politically motivating their thing, but it's still just animosity.
Right.
It's still just somebody that feels an animosity with society and a complete detachment from society. And because they feel this detachment from both society and their self, they feel like fight or flight. They can either retreat to their bedroom for the remainder of their life, or they can pick up a gun and start shooting. And like, that's it.
Yeah.
Those are the options that are laid before them. And they don't realize because, like, if you don't know that there are more options in life, if you're never given the vocabulary to understand all the different things you can do with a life, then that is literally the only options you see.
Right. Well, and like, the thing Patrick Bateman talks about with his friends is just the social script he can go off of, right? So the parallel between us talking about modern day issues and American Psycho is that if American Psycho, if that character was in this day and age, and he was talking with all of his rich, like, yuppie friends, he would just mimic the talking points that he heard on the news. That's all he does.
Yeah.
Like, the only things he talks about is he just regurgitates information he read somewhere or he heard someone say. Like, all of his music takes aren't actually music takes. He's just, like, reciting reviews. Like he is, like, you know, anytime he talks about music, he's not like, well, this is what I think. He's just talking the way a music critic would write a review of whatever. Because that's what he's going off of. He's like, well, it is normal for someone to like music, so I'm going to like music so normally that I will sound like the music likers.
Right. Well, and like the fucked up thing is he'll simultaneously say something deeply honest about his viewpoint on himself, and because people are so concerned about his image, they won't see that he's genuinely trying to share something. You know, there's that bit with the Huey Lewis thing where one of the things he says is, you know, if you listen to the lyrics, you'll see that it's not just a personal statement about the way Huey Lewis views himself, but also a personal statement on the band itself.
Right.
And people don't listen to the lyrics, and they really should. Hey, and then he turns around and he kills him. But the point is, and then he's like sitting there on the couch listening as the lyrics are talking about, you know, it's the hip to be square lyrics.
Yeah.
Which I can't remember for whatever moment right now, but like
it's talking about
talking about how literally he's trying desperately to fit in, and he's basically decided that it's cool to fit in.
Yes.
And so it's talking about his deep-seated needs and wants and desires, and he's trying to express that to other people, but the only people he feels like he can be vulnerable with are people he knows for certain he is about to kill. And because he can't be vulnerable with them without killing them, because he feels like he has to keep his vulnerability a secret, because he doesn't want to be exposed as someone who doesn't fit in his little society, he like almost kills his secretary when they're about to go on a date.
Yeah.
Because he wants to open up with her and be honest about who he is and what he sees, but instead knows that if he does that, he will have to kill her because he can't maintain that image without like he literally has to get rid of anyone who knows his secret.
Right.
And his secret is that he is actually very human.
Yes.
And he's just pretending to be inhuman and doing inhuman things because he's trying to figure out
how to be human.
Yeah.
When he's already there.
Right. But because he's like a fucked up trust fund kid, he was never really told like how to be a good person.
Yeah.
Because the rich aren't concerned about how to be moral and responsible.
No, they're concerned about how to perfectly talk about it to your friends.
Well, and how to maintain the control and order that they believe that they've attained for dynasties. It's about maintaining authority. And so the reason that all this shit is turned into fascism now is because they were trying to maintain authority before in a very passive way. But then when people are like, no, we really, really should like help out the poor, then they were like, okay, now we have to maintain our dynasty authoritarian in authoritarian and violent ways.
Right.
And that's gonna continue. And so like, I don't know, the way I always see it is like, if you don't think that all of this has some sort of greater source, then you're just not looking. Because it does. And so while I think Bret Easton Ellis's, like the way he talks about his book, American Psycho, is more, he talks about it as like him trying to tackle the materialism of the 80s and how the materialism in and of itself made people go nuts. But I don't think that's what this story is about. I don't think that he possesses the awareness to look at his own story objectively. I think the story is truthfully about someone who who their lot in life is already predetermined for them. They have already been given everything they want. They desperately want to escape that world, and but also simultaneously feel the need to maintain that world.
Right. Well, and I think that's the lack of struggle is something that I think really fucks up a lot of young men. Where they don't. It's like they're not given anything they can fight or wrestle with. And not like a literal way, like not not. But in a way where it's like for so many just like white cis het dudes, like they have no real like overall struggle, like where it's like women have it's like we have to fight for equality, fight against sexism, like gay people have to fight for their place in society, and the cis white het dudes have no overarching struggle that's worthwhile.
Well, and that's literally the thing that Fight Club ends up being about, and that's probably what we're going to end up doing next, I feel like, because it's so formative. And American History X is another. Yeah. We should do that.
Well, so I think I've probably said this on the podcast because this is something I do like believe in, but it's like there needs to be something for straight white cis het dudes to struggle against that's not that's not a counter struggle to feminists or gay folk or black people. We need to give them a productive thing to like channel themselves against.
Right. Well, and okay, so the Bhagavad Gita, right? Mm-hmm. I'm not gonna hammer on this too hard, but the Bhagavad Gita has a bit in it where it's the soldier is talking to Krishna, and he's like, Krishna, my dude, why should I do anything? Why should I work? Why should I fight? Why should I do anything? What is the fucking point of doing anything? And like, Krishna's just like, well, isn't work satisfying? Isn't having a goal satisfying? Isn't using your body, isn't that satisfying? Isn't like pushing yourself in a direction, isn't that satisfying? Just on a purely emotional basis. Like, we don't have to look at it any more than that. Like, it's not about purpose. It's not about expectation. It's not about what you ought to do, what's right or wrong. What do you fucking want?
Right.
And the reality is, it's satisfying to want. It's satisfying to do and shit like that. Right? Well, so, like, honestly, I feel like in America, you really are given no options other than kill or work.
Right. Well,
and that's it.
And it's like, other, it's like, why now? Why in the last couple of years have these kind of attacks by these kind of people like drastically increased? And I'm not saying it's like a new thing, like it's always been going on, but it is ramping up.
Because work sucks, and they can never get ahead. Well, college is expensive, and they end up in debt. The military is scary, and they end up dead.
Yeah, well,
there's no option.
Right. Well, in gun control is one factor, and it's a big factor. I'm not saying it's not, but at the same time, it's like look at who they're looking at, look at who they're listening to. Right. These are people who don't have a meaningful. Don't have anything meaningful in their lives. They've been given everything. They're privileged, even if they don't admit it. Like, I know a lot of privileged white dudes are like, I'm not privileged. It's like, shut the fuck up, dude. It's like, just because you can't realize it doesn't mean you're not privileged.
Well, and they're acting out on the fears and hatred of their father. Well, of not their even parents, even or of some global organization.
Tucker Carlson,
but they're hearing things that only ever reinforce the thing they were told, probably by their fucking right-wing asshole dad when they were like a kid.
Right.
And then they grow up and feel like they need to carry out their dad's wishes. This is literally the Northmen.
Yeah.
Like, they literally feel they need to carry out their father's wishes, their father's political motivations, and their father's fears. And if their father's like, yo, you should be deathly afraid of what's coming and minorities, and if you see a group of them, you should someone ought to kill them.
Yeah.
That kid hears that. That's a fundamental memory for them where they see value and worth in it. And then later on in their life, they go off and kill a bunch of fucking people.
Well,
and
later on in their life, they watch hours and hours of Tucker Carlson, and the only thing he fucking talks about
the only reason they like him is because he makes them nostalgic for their family or from a viewpoint that they haven't heard since for a long time.
Right, and Tucker Carlson would be like, they're replacing you, they're replacing you, they're replacing you, they're replacing you. And all of a sudden, boom! It's like you have a struggle. It's like they have something they can fight for. They have their cause to martyr themselves for. It's the bit in the Holy Mountain where it's now their axiom.
Yeah,
right.
It's a call to action.
Yes, and so we need to give these people a call to action that isn't fucking whatever comes out of Fox News or 4chan or 8chan or what the fuck ever, like whatever newest right-wing propaganda platform is there. Like, I don't know, I think but it's hard to give people meaningful, it's hard to give people meaningful struggle. It's hard to give cis het white dudes in America a meaningful struggle.
Well, it's hard for them to actually attach themselves to one because they're also there's such an independent mindset as well. There's so many variables to this, right? Because I could say, well, find religion, but they're never going to find religion because being skeptical and being smarter than everyone is a big part of their personality. So the idea of giving themselves to something larger than them is never going to happen.
Right.
And I know that when I say things like give yourself to religion, that sounds like I'm saying go be a Christian. That's not what I mean. I mean go explore what's in the world.
Right.
Understand the world. Understand nature.
Mm-hmm.
Experience the world, it's Good Will Hunting. It's the end of Good Will Hunting where he's like, you haven't fucking done anything. You're constantly talking about how much you know and how smart you are, but you haven't loved someone and then watched that person die and then had to bury them and then miss them every fucking day. You don't know what that's like.
You haven't been to war. You haven't held someone's head as they die in your lap. What the fuck do you know?
You haven't seen a goddamn mountain. What the fuck do you know?
Yeah.
Well, and this is a big motivating factor in my life because I can't tell you how many goddamn times I've had people who haven't seen or done shit in their life tell me that I couldn't do the things that I did years ago.
Yeah.
I finished
right.
years ago. And they're over there saying that I should have never even been able to start.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just God, the fucking boring naysayers, because they don't accept their body and their role and go, I'm going to do something with this.
Right.
I'm going to at least do something with my perspective. I'm going to learn. It's the American perspective is not to humble yourself before something.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what I mean about the whole find religion thing. It is not the American perspective to prostrate oneself before something larger than them, except for white society.
Yeah.
And that's the thing they'll fucking die for.
Is Good Will Hunting the perfect anti-incel movie?
I don't fucking know. It might even be a Sigma male movie. I don't even know.
No.
All right, comment section. Is Good Will Hunting a Sigma male movie or is it an anti-Sigma male movie?
Well, I think
isn't that the inherentness of these, that they all actually hate the audience that loves these movies the most?
Well, I don't know. I think we should probably just do a podcast on Good Will Hunting or hunting in this season.
Probably.
Because I think, I would argue, spoiler alert from whenever we do a Good Will Hunting episode, because I love that movie. I think it's a movie about how he is de-radicalized, how he goes from being a incel, a Sigma incel, to being realizing it's oh, I need to change my perspective on life, on women, on my relationships, on how I view the world.
Right. And he does that because he meets somebody who genuinely tells him he should try experiencing life.
Well, and he meets someone who honestly engages with him being a smartass. No one else in the movie, whenever he's a smartass, everyone else tries to match him or interact with him in their own way. But Robin Williams is all right, you said this, let's dig into it. And he's like, Wait, no, no, that's not what I want.
Yeah, because he knows he's smart, so he knows that if he can actually make him rethink the shitty things he says, then he can make him, like, be a good person.
Every once in a while, I'll just watch this scene where Robin Williams hugs him and it's like it's okay, and he's like, I know, and he's like, it's okay, or it's like, you're okay, and he's like, I know that. He's like, no, it's like, you're okay, like, it's okay. I don't know. It makes me cry like every fucking time. I'm like tearing up right now.
Aww,
like
oh my God, you are.
Yeah,
baby.
It's such a beautiful scene where it's like he just like, it's like with like a single phrase just like cuts through his ego. Like all of the defenses he's built up. Robin Williams is like, oh, I know your fatal flaw. Affection. He's like, ah!
Yeah, exactly. Like, you can't handle somebody caring about you. And anyway, well, and so to tie this all back into American Psycho, I think largely is about how the rich are simultaneously sheltered, but also so privileged that they're given whatever they want. And because of that, they're inundated with nihilism. That nihilism makes a desire for them to want to find themselves. And they feel like the only way they can find themselves is rebelling against the society that they're forced to maintain. And in forcing to maintain it and also rebelling against it, they incidentally, without realizing it, do damage to the lower classes because they think they're rebelling, but they're actually just doing the will of their parents.
Uh-huh.
What do you think of that?
I think that the moment we're done, I'm gonna go watch that scene from Good Will Hunting and cry.
Just like you just did.
Well, they're up there. They're not out yet. I'm gonna go release them.
Okay. Well, hey, where are you at? Good or shit on American Psycho?
I think it's good. I just don't think it's aged very well. Well, I think here's the problem we're gonna have with most of these movies is if you look at it from any form of media literacy, it's fine. But if you're looking at it through the lens of like how incels see the movie, of course it's going to like be bad because incels are bad. They have bad ideologies and bad takes, and anything they glorify.
Bad faith media literacy.
Yes. So it's like if you watch American Psycho through the lens of like, hey, these are the people who are leading, white society. These are the people who are being bred and groomed to take leadership and ownership of society. Like fucking Fred Duggar or Josh Duggar, that's his name.
Yeah.
Like it's the people who the rich are grooming to take over society are like this, and it's a fucking problem. Like it is, it is not okay. So if you look at the movie from that lens, then I think it's a good movie. I think it's a movie that that really kind of pretty like quickly covers that. Like it's not a very long movie, which I like. Like it literally just the movie starts and you're in.
I also like how the movie actually doesn't show him doing any real murders. Like he'll shoot people, I guess, but I mean, like, there are parts where you'll see him pulling out gloves, you'll see him pulling out like hangers and shit, but you don't see what he does. And I think largely the director of the film knew when to
turn the camera off.
Yeah, take us away from it. But also, like, so the movie almost acts as a comedy, the sex scene is like fucking hysterical.
It's so funny. Because like it's shot by like the entire sex scene for the one person who hasn't seen the movie is you're looking at him through a mirror, but he's looking at the mirror like flexing and like looking at his muscles as he's having sex because he doesn't give a shit about anything but his physique.
Right. Well, and so there's a lot to like, but I can see this movie not connecting with people because it's like an exploration of hideous whiteness. So you tread lightly, I guess. I don't know, but I think that this is a pretty good episode for the first one because it's like it's a Sigma male thing for sure. Like dudes see themselves in Patrick Bateman, but also Patrick Bateman exists to criticize them. And that's it.
Yeah. All right. I'm gonna go cry to Good Will Hunting. See you later.
All right, bye, y'all.